Hello, everyone, and welcome to Apologetics Truth. One statement that often appears in discussions about religion is this, that Muslims actually believe in Jesus more than Christians do. At first, that claim can sound convincing. Many people point out that the Quran speaks about Jesus respectfully. It says that Jesus was born of the Virgin Mary, that he performed miracles, and that he was a prophet. Because of these statements, some people conclude that Muslims honor Jesus even more than Christians. But before accepting that idea, we need to ask a simple question. What does it really mean to believe in someone? To understand this better, let's think about a simple example. Imagine someone says they admire a famous scientist like Albert Einstein. They say Einstein was brilliant. They say he was important. They even quote his name in conversations. But at the same time, they reject almost everything Einstein actually taught. They say relativity is false, his discoveries never happened, and his central ideas were wrong. Would it make sense to say that this person believes in Einstein more than the people who actually accept his discoveries and his teachings? Probably not. Respecting someone's name is not the same thing as believing what that person actually taught. And this is where the real question about Jesus begins. When we look at the earliest Christian sources, the Gospels describe Jesus in a very specific way. Jesus repeatedly refers to God as his Father, and he speaks about a unique relationship with God. For example, in the Gospel of John, chapter 10, verse 30, Jesus says, "I and the Father are one." Statements like this are not small details in Christianity. They are part of the reason Christians believe Jesus' identity is unique. But the biggest difference between Christianity and Islam appears when we look at the most important event in Christianity, the death and resurrection of Jesus. According to the New Testament, Jesus was crucified and later rose from the dead. The resurrection is not just one teaching among many in Christianity, it is the center of the entire message. In fact, the Apostle Paul wrote something very strong about this in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. He said that if Christ has not been raised from the dead, then the Christian faith is meaningless. In other words, if the resurrection did not happen, Christianity itself collapses. That shows how central this event is to Christian belief. However, the Quran teaches something very different. It denies that Jesus was crucified, so this creates a very serious difference. Christians believe the most important event in Jesus' life was his death and resurrection. Islam teaches that this event never happened. Let's think about another everyday example to make this clearer. Imagine someone says they believe in a famous athlete. They say they respect him and admire him. But they also say the athlete never won any championships, never played the most important games of his career, and the major events everyone associates with him never actually happened. If someone rejects the most important events of a person's life, can they still claim to believe in that person more than the people who accept those events? That's a question worth thinking about. There is also another issue that often appears in these discussions. Many arguments about Jesus appeal to statements found in the Bible, yet at the same time, some people claim the Bible itself has been corrupted and cannot be trusted. So another question naturally arises. If the Bible is not reliable, why appeal to it as evidence? That is another topic we will explore in a future video. The purpose of this channel is not to attack anyone or insult anyone's beliefs. Instead, the goal is to examine claims carefully and compare them with historical sources and the teachings of the Bible. Faith should not be based on misunderstandings. It should be based on truth and careful reasoning. And when we look closely at the differences between what Christianity teaches about Jesus and what Islam teaches, we begin to see that the question is more complex than many people first assume. So here's a question for you. Do you think someone can reject the central events of Jesus' life and still claim to believe in him more than Christians do? If you have questions, disagree with anything discussed here, or want to add something to the discussion, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow Apologetics Truth for the next part.